Hey everybody, in this episode of the Effective E-commerce podcast, we're going to be talking about how to create a passion product, how to sell it on Amazon, like create a whole business around it. And I have Ariana on, who I taught how to create a passion product business. And for those of you that don't know, Ariana is my girlfriend as well, so she's the perfect guinea pig for the passion product method. So her product, actually I'll tell. So before we get into it, there's a few things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to come up with the idea, how to actually do all the product research, make sure that you have a good idea, and then how you can launch it as a Kickstarter so you can crowdfund it. Most private labeling on Amazon, you have to spend a lot of money up front, but with the passion product formula method, you don't need to. And so Ariana launched a passion product, and we're going to be talking about how she did it. So first off, you want to talk a little bit about your product? Let's start there.
Yeah, so my product is called Vino Cards, and it's a sommelier in a box, as someone once said to us, and it's essentially a wine course in flashcard form. So it's a set of 50 cards highlighting wines from around the world, and it's supposed to teach you how to really taste between wines, what's the difference, kind of have a little more knowledge overall of what a wine is and all its unique characteristics.
Awesome. And this episode is going to be kind of an overview episode. I want to do the next 5, 6, maybe even 7 podcasts as an interview series with Ariana, walking step by step how she created her passion product. So like I said, this one will just be the very beginning phases and an overview. And I mentioned it in an email, not everyone knows, but January 8th, I'm going to be launching a beta release of the passion product formula course. Name is still to be determined. We'll see. Basically, I want to take 10 people. I'm going to cap the max number at 10 people. I'm going to walk them step by step through the process, give them access to the course. We're also going to do a group training, so probably 6 weeks worth of group training where me and the 10 people get on a call and I answer all their questions. It's going to come with every course I've ever done, included in it, bundled in it, and some private sessions with me. But that's enough about that. This episode is going to be about Ariana and what she did. So I think to get started, you want to talk a little bit about your story? Because I think that's kind of a fun place, however you want to start.
Okay, yeah. Well, I did not study at all any business-related things. I studied zoology in college, so wildlife conservation is definitely one of my passions, but it came so to be that once I saw how successful you've been with your business. It was an idea that I tossed around, more of a side hustle. What can a side hustle be for me?
Yeah, I remember for a long time, before I ever mentioned I wanted to teach you anything, you were talking about different side hustles.
Yeah, because it seems to be kind of the culture surrounding at least people my age, and just right now on how to make extra cash on the side.
And so what were some of the side hustles you were looking at? I forget.
So one of them actually was just creating a blog.
Oh my gosh.
Which could be tough as I've come to realize as well. But people really gravitate towards blogs if you have something interesting to say, something interesting to share. It was a little tougher to kind of get that started, especially because I didn't know what the blog should be about.
And for the audience, I talked a lot with her about this and how are you going to make money off this? And the amount of work that you'd have to put into a blog before you make any money just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
and we got into it a little bit about that.
A little bit more of my feminine side was kind of like, this is cool. Let's do a lifestyle blog. And so for me, I thought that'd be really fun. But it wasn't something that I was really hooked on either, and so I didn't really pursue that as much. And the idea still kind of lingered around. What do I want to do? And
you still doing that a little bit?
The blog? No.
Okay.
No, I'm not doing that, especially with Vino Cards now, which
thank God.
which I love much more.
Yeah.
There are other ways to do that too. It seemed like some sort of Instagram influencer kind of thing was also a side hustle of some sort.
Were you going to do an Instagram? You were going to be an Instagram influencer too? I think I remember you tossed about that idea.
Of that.
Right.
The point
also
is
super hard to make money from, and that's another thing.
But the thing with that is that you need to have a product or something, or even not even a product, but something that you sell of yourself to kind of intrigue people.
I thought for a little while, were you talking about maybe doing like a food Instagram or something?
Related. It was actually
Yeah.
More like related to LA living. Like
Right.
what should people do like from an LA native perspective?
Which, once again, I talked a lot to you about, like, okay, how are you gonna make money off that? If you want to give tours of LA, that makes sense. You might get some free food, maybe, but that's probably the most. You're not gonna make a ton of cash.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed more of a full-time job
Yeah.
versus like an actual side hustle
Sure.
while also doing my full-time job. Okay, so flash forward, I mean, it was a conversation. I had brought up the idea, wasn't fully formed yet.
Sure.
Until very unexpectedly, randomly, which is also like the beauty of the product, is that it came up when we were just having a normal conversation in the car.
Right. Yeah.
And so, again, the idea is lingering. We had talked about wine. I don't really remember how that came up, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe wine tastings we thought about or something like that.
Was this before or after we did the wine tasting at Audrey's? Do you remember?
It must have been after.
So for the audience, for everybody listening, I downloaded this course on learning wine, basically. And the first episode was about, you try out 4 different types of white wine, and then you taste all 4 of the white wines. Then the next episode's about red wine, and so on and so on. And so we decided to do a wine tasting at a friend of ours' house. And I asked everyone, hey, let's watch the video, and then we can taste the wine and go back and forth. And people didn't want to be quiet and watch the video.
But then you miss all the essential information.
Yeah, you miss all the information. So then the wine tasting just kind of devolves into just drinking and conversation, which can be fun, but you're not learning anything. And if you watch my YouTube channel or you listen to the podcast, I love learning things. And I don't want to just get drunk with friends and have conversation. I mean, that's fun, that's great, but like I wanted
and
this.
It's
a wine taste. Yeah.
Also, people our age, I think, also want to seem a little more knowledgeable about it. You know, we're also at an age where it's not to like feel like you want to show off to people, but also you want to know like you know something. You know, you want to be perceived that way.
Well, yeah, it's fun to learn things, and so basically realized that watching a video while doing a wine tasting is not the optimal method for learning something like that.
And so that was on our minds.
That was on our mind,
and you had brought that up too. I believe you started that conversation in the car where it was like, you know what? How was that wine tasting? It wasn't as fun as we were expecting. You know, again, people had to listen, but that's not really a social environment. You know, it's just watching a movie essentially while having a glass of wine. Yeah,
and I like making flashcards, and we both like making flashcards. And I think that's a valuable way to learn.
Yeah, it is a valuable way. And also, I mean, we brought up the idea of wine tastings, and what did we grab from that? It's that we learn on the spot, but we forget when we leave. You know, and we take notes. I've seen us take notes at places where like, oh, let's remember this pairing, or oh, I kind of like this wine. Let me write down what it is and find it later. But then it gets lost. We forget.
Sure.
And I think you brought up wine cards, and you thought of this as like a product that you'd want to use, you know?
Yeah. This was, but I thought of it as, so that was something the initial idea was wine cards was kind of like my idea, but Ariana kind of took it and ran with it and made it into a better idea, and she came up with the name Vino Cards.
In the car, during that time too, because we were like, let's see if on GoDaddy, if this is taken.
Right.
And I think we thought wine cards, which I wasn't fond of.
Yeah, wine cards was already taken though too.
And then just Vino Cards clicked, and very easy to say, easy to remember.
Yeah, and it's definitely a little bit more millennial friendly than wine cards. So that's kind of how the idea came about. I think. And I'll give some ways to come up with ideas, and I'll get your feedback, Ariana, on this as well, quickly in this podcast. But a lot of times it's just tuning your brain in. It's thinking, what do I want? I wish there was something that would solve this need. And I think people want hacks and quick fix and tools to do product research or to find ideas, but it's just a change in your brain because you're constantly coming up with amazing ideas. Every time you want something and you can't find it, I think we looked on Amazon too for that. Because the truth is, I'd rather it already have been on Amazon than us having to start a company. I'd rather pay $20. That's when you know it's a good idea. When you'd rather pay $20 than start a company to create it, because that means that there's other people out there that have the same mindset. So I mean, if you were to come up with an idea, if I said we got to come up with a passion product again, any idea how you'd come up with an idea? I'll give some tools that I've used in the past, but
I mean, I like what you said is just thinking of something that I'd want that I don't have,
right?
And does that exist? Because like you said, if it was already somewhere, I'd be like, okay, let me investigate that. I might buy it same time, but It's hard. I mean, I don't think, I mean, maybe for some people and for some ideas, that's awesome that you think of it right away and it's there. That's not really the case for like a lot of people or like for everyone, you know?
Sure.
It's not something you can generalize.
It is and it isn't, but I feel like more often I'm talking to people and they're like, I already have like I'm about to start working with another guy who he wants to make some side money, and I'm like, hey, what about a passion product? Would you want to start a passion product? And he's like, you know, I do have an idea of a product I'd love to create. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have this idea. Like I remember my dad growing up, he had this idea of protein pancakes. And it was a great idea, except for he never made it into a business. And now there's businesses making lots of money with protein pancakes. And he's like, that was my idea. And I'm like, yeah, but you never acted on it. You never created a business around it. And that's part of the reason I want to launch the course is I know there's a lot of people out there that have ideas, they just don't know how to actually like do it. And so there are some people that
or
have ideas.
Or maybe people don't realize that they can make a business out of
right,
it. You know,
yeah.
you think of ideas, but then you're like, oh, that'd be cool, and then you know,
yeah,
you don't have a business background. You don't really.
Right. I wish that thing existed, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
Right, and you know, a lot of it for me is that I'm very fortunate that I am dating you, and you have the tools for me. You know, and it's almost like we were brought together. You know, not just because of that, but because of that, we get to create something which is really awesome. And so, I mean, it's a little bit of luck, but it's also executing an idea that we put together. And what's really important too for me is because I think you've tossed around ideas, or I've seen you kind of say, I wish I had that or do that or some, you know, it's also when you mentioned Vino cards, for some reason that clicked for me,
right,
you know, and a lot of other product ideas didn't, or,
right.
you know, the blog didn't stick with me as well, or else I would have pursued that and put more effort into it.
And I think that's another benefit of the whole passion product idea is it's really cool. I mean, actually, I'll let you speak on it. I think for me with Performance Nut Butter, it's really cool to create something and be able to give it to people, and they'd be like, wow, you made this from nothing. What was it like the first time you saw Vino cards?
Yeah, well, I guess the first time I saw it, I already kind of had like there might be something wrong with it.
Well, I implanted that in your mind.
I think you did.
But when you first saw it, you were happy. I remember.
Was really excited, yeah. I mean, we worked months on it.
Yeah.
I had put so much time and research into it. So to actually finally have it shipped to us, and then for me to see it, it's like, whoa, this was on the computer.
It was just an idea. It was in your brain at one point. Then it's on the computer, and then it's in real life. You know?
It was really cool. I mean, I'm very excited about it, and I think the next step for me was like, okay, this is awesome. Now I want other people to hold it. I want other people to see it. And so then a whole new set of challenges came with that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I was really excited.
So I'll give some tools for coming up with an idea, just kind of rapid fire. The first tool is just writing down one idea a day. And that kind of primes your brain into thinking, all right, what's something that I could create? It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be, it could be as bad as you want. It could be absolutely terrible. But just every night before you go to bed or first thing when you wake up, I think before you go to bed is good, because then you don't allow yourself to fall asleep until you've written down one idea. And once again, it doesn't matter how good or bad it is. That's one. I think just watching what you say as far as like, oh, I wish this thing existed, just tuning your mindset. I do have some worksheets and stuff in the e-commerce success pack. I'll put links up here if you're watching the YouTube video, and I'll just go to effectiveecommerce.com to get that. I'll put some worksheets where basically it's getting to know yourself better. I think going through your credit card statements and highlighting where you spend money that most people don't spend money. For me, it was supplements and healthy food specifically. I realized I was spending a lot of money on healthy food, so why don't I make a healthy food product? I gotta spend some money online. I think
it was more like social events, like even
going
to
good.
brunch, you know, and it's like, oh, my girlfriends and I love to drink while we're eating lunch, you know, mimosas, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think there was some sort of underlying, like, I like to spend time with people. I like to have people over. I like to go to other people's house and do wine nights.
Yeah.
And I think it's very common for people to bring a bottle of wine to an invite, you know, of a board game night or whatever. And so I think there was that, you know.
Yeah, so those are some of the tools. There's also Google keyword research tool, so you can dive in a little bit deeper and see if your idea is a good idea. I've talked about that in so many other videos. You can search around for that. Same thing with Google Trends to see if it's a trending keyword over time. So we can look up wine education and see that it's actually growing over time. But that's as far as validating and coming up with the idea. I'll just go over the full process, I think. The next step was launching it on Kickstarter. And so we didn't spend that much money launching it on a Kickstarter because we didn't have to have the physical product at all.
Just a mock-up.
Yeah, just a mock-up. And I ended up paying a designer to do the mock-up, or we did, I guess I should say. I paid a designer to do the mock-up just so it looked really good on the Kickstarter. But we probably could have got a friend to do it for free for the version 1.0. After the Kickstarter, it was working with the manufacturer, working with the designer further. These will probably all be separate podcast episodes. We'll do an episode 2 on all the legal stuff. I know people get really, screwed up over the legal stuff and think, I don't know, should it be a DBA, LLC, S Corp? It's really simple. I think that's an overblown thing. And honestly, I don't even think you need to worry about that until you've almost are ready to launch. Like, I think the first thing you need to do is try to start selling stuff and then worrying about the legal stuff.
But it is something to look into properly.
Sure,
I mean, it's a little daunting.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes
how hard was it?
It's not hard, but I had a lot of questions.
You had a lot of questions, but once you know the answers, it's super easy. And obviously, we'll do a podcast about that. The next step was working with the manufacturer, getting everything in China, getting it shipped over, we're still working on the sea shipment. Is there an update on that?
It's going to be here January 8th.
We didn't pay yet though, did we?
No, we didn't pay, but she didn't ask for an invoice yet.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. We'll deal with that. And then the last thing is launching on Amazon. We'll do a whole episode about how we launched on Amazon, all the different things that you need to keep in mind for that. That'll be a fun episode. So for the remainder of this first episode, we're going to talk about the Kickstarter. We're going to talk about just some general, maybe questions you had when you first started, if you can remember. And we'll wrap up, and I'll give you the outline for the next few episodes so you can hopefully get excited and share in the journey of launching this product. So first off, do you remember when you were first getting started? Like, what were some of the questions you have, if you can remember?
Well, I mean, some general questions that came to mind, I think, is how do we design it? How do I start that? What should it look like? I mean, it's more of the physicality of the product itself, because we had this idea, but what should go on it?
Absolutely.
How to outline that. I think past that, it was also, how do we reach people? How do we
marketing.
Get people? What's the process for that?
Right.
And then, are people interested in it? And I think the Kickstarter was a great way to kind of gauge that. And so that was a good answer to that question. And then, after that, it was just whatever little things we had to work on, that other kind of random questions came up. How much should we order?
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. It's lots of little small questions that you can get paralyzed on. This still happens with me. I'm lucky to have some friends that also happen to almost be mentors, where I'll get really stuck on a question and I'll be able to ask someone else outside of me and they'll be able to answer it. And this is another reason why, shameless plug, I'm going to be doing the beta launch of the course. And another reason why I'm capping it at 10 people is because I want to be able to give those people their full attention. And I really want those people, I'm going to do everything I can to make them successful, because if they do well, then it looks good on me. It looks good on the course. So another shameless plug. So it was basically, from there, it was launching it on a Kickstarter. And I'm almost wondering right now if we should do this as a separate episode, or do you think we should just, go through it?
I think we should do it now, just because, starting a Kickstarter can seem like a lot of steps, but I think it's a very easy way to kind of make that startup money for it, So you
want to talk about the process? I'm going to see how much I can fill in the details.
Yeah. Okay, so launching the Kickstarter, I feel like you should give yourself a month to prepare for it before you actually launch for
at least
30
a month.
days.
I'd say 3 months is better. Almost the longer the better. I'd say a month minimum, but
I think we had a month and a half maybe, though. We thought about the idea, but then I think we had to quickly
iterate and go.
For us. But I think you're right. I think give yourself enough time, because if you set yourself a launch date and you think that those 30 days are going to be the perfect time to do it, plan around that. Make sure you hit that deadline, And it actually is really good, because then it kind of forces you to really be on top of all those little tasks you need to complete. So, but one of the things I saw that you did with PNB last year was that we create a Facebook launch group and invite everyone that kind of start to pique their interest in this person I know is creating something. What is it? So keep them engaged. Creating an email list.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, and that was helpful with the launch group as well. Email list, Instagram, opened an Instagram account and started posting there, kind of wine-related things.
Yeah. And so the big part with the Instagram thing is you're collecting an email list from the Instagram. So you're posting wine-related things. You're posting little snippets of vino cards or whatever your product, your passion product is.
Mostly videos, talking about it.
Yeah, like showing the creation process, bringing people along on the journey. Because people love a good journey. People love a good story. And if you can take them along on this journey, on this story, they'll want to support you.
Yeah, and I found it best to do actually a video for it because then you put a face to the product, you know, and it feels a little more relatable. And
on the Facebook algorithm and on the Instagram algorithm, they prefer videos somewhat. So you make that video, that's why I did it.
Okay.
You make that video and you post it on Facebook, you post it on your personal Facebook, post it in the launch group, post it on your personal Instagram, post it on your passion products Instagram.
Send it out in an email.
Yeah. Try to just get it out, just get the story so everybody sees the struggle of you creating this product so that when you do finally launch, they're excited for you, they want to support you.
Okay, so first step is really trying to get a core group of people that can follow
your launch group. This is your launch group.
So
get them in a Facebook group. Yeah.
Right, and so then after that, I started making videos, updates on how the process is going because all the in-between time is getting a designer, fine-tuning what the logo will look like.
Yeah. And that's another example. The logo, you want to show it to your launch group. That's why they're there. Is they'll give you feedback and they'll say, "Hey, I like this about the logo, but I don't like this." And they'll help create the product.
Yeah, but the big thing too. So the logo, what the card will look like, a very simple mock-up of it. You know, we didn't even hire someone to do the cards until after we finished the Kickstarter.
No, we did.
Did we?
Yeah. Well, so what we did is we had someone do a few cards.
Yeah, but I remember you were on the computer and you were designing it. I mean, remember we had a very
No, but for the Kickstarter, we did have a professional designer do a few mock-ups.
Oh, that's true. We printed it on the cards. Okay, but we didn't fully dive into exactly what we wanted it to look like until after because then we saw the interest in it.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was all these little things. And then we eventually set a goal for how much we should raise on the Kickstarter.
$5,000.
$5,000 was for us. And then, I don't know, what else did we do?
So I just want to reiterate, the whole thing, the longer you wait, to some degree, we did it kind of maybe quicker than we should have.
Yeah.
The longer you wait, you're creating this net, and fish are just going into it. And that's Instagram. You're collecting all these emails and fish and more fish. And so the longer you wait to pull it out, the more fish you're going to have. Obviously, if you wait too long, it could be an issue.
And also, if you give yourself enough time, you kind of prep people. Like, you get them excited, right?
Yeah.
You're like 2 weeks away, 1 week away, 5 days
and
away.
I always talk about this in my YouTube videos. I don't talk about it too much on the podcast, but it's like shaking a champagne bottle. The more you build up, the more you're shaking the champagne bottle, and then when you finally pop, when you launch it, it's going to explode.
Very good analogy.
That's what it is. Because it's like every time you do a new video post, every time you send out a new email, it's one more shake. So it's like if you launch it without shaking that champagne bottle at all, you could have this great, beautiful, nice, big champagne bottle, but you don't shake it up, nothing's going to happen. So it's getting the fire started. When I launched Performance Nut Butter, and I tell a story all the time, Ariana was next to me, and she wanted to be the first person to buy. I said I was going to launch it at 6 in the morning. I launched it at like 5:55, and Ariana was next to me, and she was this 5th or 6th person to purchase, which means that there was 5 people sitting there hitting the refresh button before Ariana was able to do it that beat her out. And that's how excited people were. That at 5:55 in the morning, they were sitting there waiting for me to open it.
So frustrating.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the first.
Especially considering I didn't say I was going to open it until 6 o'clock. So like that means that they were just waiting. So that's the power of a launch group and all this stuff. One mistake that we didn't do on Vino Cards that I did do on Performance Nut Butter was contacting influencers. And for Performance Nut Butter, I actually raised $10,000 in 3 days. Part of it's because of the product launch group, but the other part was because I'd interview these influencers and then I'd give them free product at the end of the podcast, or I'd ask them if they want free product at the end of the podcast. And then come launch day, I got them excited about it too. And they ended up posting on their social media saying, yo, go support this guy. Performance Nut Butter is amazing. And that was really huge for me. And I was disappointed. I should have pushed that more for Vino Cards.
But the thing is we didn't have a physical product.
Yeah, we didn't have a physical product.
So...
Yeah, we should have done it for the Amazon launch.
Yeah.
That's going to be one thing we'll be doing next year. So,
I mean, if you can have a physical product before the Kickstarter, your idea is great. If you're kind of still, wanting to see if there's interest in it and you kind of just have these digital versions of it.
Right. I mean, I guess you could always promise a free product to the influencers and say, hey, if this gets funded, we'll give you free product. And then just ask them to post like an image or something of it, a mock-up or whatever it is.
I mean, it really just depends on, what you have.
Yeah. So that was pretty much the process. I think we can, we'll save for the next episode. We'll talk about how to find and work with a designer, how to design your Amazon passion product. Then we'll talk about how to work with a manufacturer, all the legal stuff. We'll do another episode on the legal stuff, how to set it up on Amazon, and probably one or two other, I don't know, is there any other ideas that you have in there?
And maybe just how to continue marketing for it.
And so that'll be like the last episode we probably do will be the creating and launching on Amazon, and then continuing to market it. So it'll be 6-7 episode series here. And I think the last thing I just want to reiterate is January 8th, very important, especially with all the New Year's resolutions coming up. I'll be launching this. It's going to be a really good deal. I'm going to be doing this whole course bundle for a lot cheaper than I probably should, but it's because I want to get people in here. I want to make sure I get at least 10 people into the beta group, the Passion Product Formula beta group. And again, it's going to come with at least 2 private sessions with me, 6 group sessions. It's going to come up with the full course. It'll be the beta version of the course, but when the actual official version comes out, you'll get access to that as well. It's going to come with, I'm going to include, just to make it a ridiculously good deal, I'm going to include every course I've ever created, which is the AdWords, the Facebook course, the e-commerce general course. And I can't state this enough that for the people that do join this, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you're successful. I mean, it makes me look good if you're successful, and I want you to be. If you're interested in being a part of this project, I want to do everything in my power. So you're not just paying for this course, you're paying for me. You're paying for my time and my energy. So I'm going to slowly trickle out some more information about that over the next few weeks, but just start keeping that in mind. January 8th, that'll be coming out. Ariana, thank you for doing this episode with me. And we'll do another episode very soon. So every Monday we'll do a new podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you are listening to the podcast, you can leave a 5-star review in iTunes for a chance to win a free one-on-one consulting with me. Every month I pick a new winner. So go leave a 5-star review on iTunes, please. And it helps the podcast out. It helps all that stuff out.
It helps you out.
It helps everybody out. It helps me out, you're saythat Yes, it does. It does. Well,
it helps the people, viewing, because then it encourages you to keep wanting to do it.
It does. And that was a big reason. The last podcast I did, I stopped because it just didn't feel like the people were engaged enough. There was people listening, but they weren't leaving reviews. And it feels really good when I see that I've gotten new reviews. And it also helps me get on really good guests. I have some really high quality guests coming up, and it's because they saw, this has a lot of reviews. There must be a lot of awesome people listening. So go leave a review, all that fun stuff. Thank you guys again for listening. Thank you, Ariana.
No
and
problem.
see you in the next episode.